All the work I'm doing is to get humans to be interplanetary, on Earth and Mars, and it's for the next generation. So I call them the Mars generation now. Someone in university or in high school today will actually probably be the first astronaut to set foot on Mars. Nothing is spectacular in terms of the beauty and the nature, of course. Anywhere we're going to, the solar system has nothing. We have huge mountains, Olympus Mons on Mars, and huge crevasses and valleys, Valles Marineris. But the sheer beauty of New Zealand, just from what I've seen over the last 3 days, is pretty spectacular. I think from the early astronomers, we've always been fascinated with Mars, from Galileo, and equally probably before him, and equally after him, to look up and wonder.
Right.
The enduring questions in all of our exploration are we alone in the universe? Are there other habitable planets? And did Mars once have life? Did it harbor past life? Now, that's probably 3.5 billion years ago. But that's why we look up, and we can maybe see a bit of a reflection in Mars in ourselves, because it sure does look like, there was valleys and maybe water running and things from the early astronomers. Now, but like I say, Mars and Earth are sister planets, are 4.5 billion years old each.
Right,
And it looks, all the evidence is pointing to Mars being much warmer, possibly to harbor life. But we think about 3.5 billion years ago, something changed drastically on Mars. And so if life did exist on Mars, then what went so terribly wrong? That's really critically important to learn that, not just about Mars, but what does that tell us about Earth? So our first phase of our journey to Mars is happening right now. It's International Space Station, and it's NASA with our partner nations, all living aboard International Space Station in low Earth orbit, but for 16 years continuously. Phase 2 is with our big new rocket, the Space Launch System with Orion on top. And so all of the 2020s will go from Earth, Moon, to cislunar space, Earth, Moon orbit, and then we call that deep space. So that will take us further than any human being has ever looked back on Earth. And there's where we prove out the technologies that we can only prove in the realistic environment of deep space. And then the third stage is finally getting to Mars orbit and what we say boots on Mars in the 2030s. When you get to Mars, and when you get to that third phase, you are completely independent of Earth.
Right.
So we're dependent on Earth right now from low Earth orbit. Monday we'll launch a cargo resupply mission. We're always resupplying from the Earth. When we get to the second phase, the proving ground, we'll be less dependent on Earth, but just days or weeks away from Earth. And then phase 3 is something completely different. Phase 3 is completely Earth independence. So you need all of your autonomous systems to work, and you kind of cast a die when you launch, then that mission is going to happen, more or less autonomously. It will have communications, of course, but you really need all of your systems to operate autonomously.